Sheldon Poon, take us through your journey and a bit on how that led you to drive marketing.
Yeah, so I actually co-founded this company with a partner who was actually a friend of mine. So we kind of fell into running a company by accident. And I'll get into it, but because we started a company by accident, that's eventually how my co-founder left and why I'm kind of left on my own to drive the ship, as it were. So Vincent, who is an extremely talented graphic designer, him and I used to work together, building kind of just like freelance web projects. Like I would come in, I understand the technical side. So, I would, do all the technical work. He would do these incredible designs, and together we would be able to push out like just these awesome web projects for clients back in like the early 2000s. We're going back like almost 20 years at this point. And basically, we had always worked together. Montreal is a fairly small city, so we'd run into each other, in meetups and the same people. And eventually we said, like, well, we'll just start working together. We had like another guy who was involved who was supposed to be doing sales, but he just did a terrible job. He ended up kind of taking his cut and then just running off, never supported the clients, never really closed the deals. I ended up closing most of the deals anyways. So Vincent and I got to talking and we're like, hey, let's stop working with this guy. Let's do our own thing. So we had a roster of clients at that point, and we said, how do we signal to people that, now this is me and you, we're doing something different. This other guy's cut out. So we decided to brand ourselves and we said, let's just tell people, like, let's just register the domain. Let's just tell people that that's who we are now. And we know that working with Drive Marketing means that you're working with Sheldon and Vincent. What we didn't anticipate was, one, people really liked it, and they started telling us like, oh, thank God, we hated that other guy that you were dealing with. So talking to you directly, that's way better for us. But we weren't clear enough that it wasn't a real company, and people started writing checks that we now could not cash. So we went to the bank. We're like, hey, we have these checks for a company called Drive Marketing. What can we do with them? They're like, well, you need to open a bank account. Okay, how do we do that? Well, you need to register the company. So we then went backwards and talked to a lawyer friend, and he helped us get all the paperwork together to do the incorporation. And then we were able to get the bank account, and then we were able to deposit the check. And we're like, okay, great, we're making money now. How do we pull money out of the account? And they're like, well, you're a corporation, so you can't just give yourself money. And we had to hire an accounting firm who then set us up for payroll, and then we were finally able to extract money from the company. So at this point, because we were already working together, we had registered a company, got a bank account, got an office, and then because people liked working with us, they started sending us too many projects. And we're like, well, we already have payroll. What do we have to do now? I guess we'll just start hiring people. And then I remember at one point we were about 5 people in the physical office. This is pre-COVID days. And Vincent and I were looking at each other. It's like, I think we started a company.
That's great. It's a lot of the fun stories, the beginnings of companies sound a lot like that, right? Where it just started doing the work and it just started happening, right? That's great. Thanks for sharing. So how do you partner with clients, Sheldon?
So, today we have evolved quite a bit. So like I said, as we continued to grow, Vincent really didn't enjoy the staffing, the management part, the client acquisition, like all the stuff that goes into running a business. So he eventually left the company, and I kind of just continued and took it over. And we've pivoted today to mostly being a paid ads specialist. And we really pride ourselves, when you say partnering with clients, that's really what we pride ourselves in. We make sure that from every step of the way, we're very transparent with our clients. That's usually the feedback that we get most from our clients, is the level of transparency where we involve them in the decision-making process. We make sure that they understand our strategy, not just at a very high level, but they sign off all the way through, understand how we're approaching the data, how we're approaching the AI platforms, how we're making them stand out and be different, and how we're leveraging technology and automation. So So they really get a sense that by the time they get that report every month, that they're sitting down, they're walking through it with us, and they see the outcome of the execution of the strategy that we explained to them from the beginning. So when we say that we're partnering with clients, we really do take that very, very seriously. We have found over the years that the clients that don't tend to stick around are the clients that say, hey, like, I don't want to know your strategy. I don't care about these details. Like, just take care of it. They end up not understanding the real strength of what we do. And they end up just saying like, well, we're just like any other agency. Whereas the ones that have taken the time to actually, work very closely with me and my team, they understand what makes our approach different, how much we're leveraging the latest and greatest in AI and data, and why that gives them an edge, and how to read the reports. And then it becomes more of a back and forth, and it really does make us really feel like we're all part of the same team.
That's great. So can you share us a success story where you've partnered with a client and how those outcomes turned out?
Yeah, for sure. One that's kind of just on the top of my head because we've just been working on the case study recently. A buddy of mine used to work for this home services company where they did they do glass replacement. So super like straightforward. You have a window with a cracked or foggy pane. Instead of replacing the window, you can just go and just replace the glass. It's way cheaper. So he registered the company, and then he said like, hey, how do I start like getting this off the ground? So what we did was, from just the name of the company, within a week, we had the domain registered, we had the brand guidelines done, we had the website up. By the second week, we had all the tracking in place with all the campaigns ready to go. And by the end of that second week, as soon as we hit go on the Meta ads campaign, because everything was in place, everything was automated, the social media is automatically done by AI at this point. As soon as we hit go, we had our first lead within 2 hours. We had our first sale within 72 hours. And a few days into it, we are now at 13 return on ad spend. 13x, so that's 1,300% return on ad spend. So we're putting that case study together. We're quite proud of it. So we basically got a company off the ground in 2 weeks.
Very cool. So could you walk us through like what that looked like on the front end? Like what kind of inputs did you need from the client in order to help make that happen? So like when it comes to their story or their ad materials, creative, any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So basically, we, in home service, like in marketing, I think one of the things that people always talk about is you have to tell your story, you have to tell your story, you have to tell your story. That's true if you're like a big, complex company that has like, you know, you're trying to reach this very you're trying to reach an audience that's in a space that kind of accepts that. For home services, nobody cares why Harvey started doing glass replacement. They want to know, are you going to mess this up when you come in? Are you going to track dirt all over the place? Are you going to get the job done? Is this going to get me in trouble? That's what they care about. Nobody cares about the story. So when we were putting everything together, we took a very straightforward approach. Like, give us all the details, give us some pictures that you have from past jobs. We literally just took that. We said very, very, very clearly, like, look, don't replace the entire frame and window. Just replace the glass. Most of the time, that's all you have to do. It's going to get rid of the crack, get rid of the fogginess. For homeowners, that's probably going to fix your problem. For real estate agents, as soon as you fix that foggy or broken pane for, you know, call it like $3,000 or $4,000 instead of spending $10,000, $20,000 on windows, you instantly raise the value of that real estate. So just a very straightforward approach. We didn't need to tell a complex depth story of what inspired Harvey to become a window specialist. They don't care about that. They care about, how are you going to help me get the job done as quickly as possible? And then in terms of the funnel, we just removed any kind of barrier to entry, right? So as soon as you click on the ad is very clear. Save 80% by just like fixing your window instead of replacing it. As soon as you click on the ad, it goes to a form. You fill out the form. You say how many windows do you have, what part of town are you in, when do we contact you, and that's it. Other than that, everything else, the website shows him and his team, nice pictures, cleaned up by AI. The social media, I took all of his pictures from the before and after. I shoved it into our AI algorithms and I said, hey, post every single day or every 2 days, one on Facebook, one on Instagram, and show the before and after and write a bit of text. And that's what it did. So you go to the website, it looks legitimate. They have a real team with real people. You look at their Facebook or Instagram, you can see past posts, you can see they're actively replacing windows. And when you look them up, you see that, they're listed on Google, they have their office, everything's legit, they have their licenses, they have their insurance, they have all their stuff. And that's enough for people to say like, okay, I trust you. You guys are a real brand. You guys have done this before. Let me fill out the form. Let me get a quote.
Very nice. A lot of it starts with trust, right? It doesn't have to be some grand story. In some cases, those feel quite embellished anyway. Because this is like, well, this is how Harry started his business in 1945. Yeah. But it's more of what resonates with the type of customers that you're trying to attract, right?
Exactly. To us, our approach is very pragmatic. So if the story doesn't help build trust or doesn't speak to the client in a way that they care about, then there's no point in including that. Just shove that into the about page, shove that in the company history, and just leave it alone.
Yeah. What size customers do you work with typically?
Typically, so the home services one is smaller than our typical client. Typically, we work with national and international retailers, very, very heavily on the e-com space. So they usually, a lot of our clients, you can basically walk into a Costco and pick their products up off the shelf, if that gives you an idea. Uh-huh. And we work with a couple of fashion brands, some food brands, and some brands in automotive. And when we're working with those brands in e-com, when they have like that big national footprint and they have that brand recognition, it's very easy for us to kind of be the cherry on top and just kind of push traffic into their e-com and just get those numbers and optimize the AI and do like that kind of like last step of optimization that really makes that big impact.
Sheldon, if you're sitting down with a small business right now and you were going to give them some pointers on how to take their marketing from a very much a just small business owner led marketing effort to kind of the next level, you have any thoughts on how you'd kind of consult somebody on that?
So what do you have in mind? Someone who is already like their business is already profitable and they're looking at growth, or somebody who's like literally just starting from zero?
I'd say somebody who already has an existing business that's somewhat profitable. Yeah. And they're looking to grow a bit. Yep.
Okay. So, for someone like that, I'm going to kind of like create like a persona just to give me a bit of an idea. So chances are they have a legacy business, and we see this a lot. People are coming to us, they have a legacy business. And they're coming to terms with the times and saying that I have been doing X for 15, 20 years. We've built a very successful business. We're very happy with it. But we don't know why, but now our competition is suddenly eating our lunch. And that's usually what they come to us for. We're kind of like that big red phone on the desk for the emergency line and going like, okay, I don't know what to do. Let me call Sheldon. So usually what that means is that we're looking at a business that has been very successful in the past, but now their inefficiencies are catching up with them. And chances are their competition has zeroed in on something that is some sort of automation, some sort of tool, some sort of modernized system that is allowing them to basically outrun their competition. So when this person comes to us, they're like, why is it that our competitor down the street is running circles around us? And that's usually the starting point. And usually when we start digging in, we start looking like, okay, something like, I think today, something like 63 or 65% of consumer decisions are made by talking to a large language model like a ChatGPT or Gemini. Well, chances are, if you're not showing up there, that's probably one of the first issues. That means that fundamentally your SEO is probably not there, which means that fundamentally there's something up with your website, there's something with your social media, there's something with your digital presence, which is not signaling to the LLMs like, hey, you should be doing business with XYZ. So we would probably try to take a look and say, okay, well, what is your competition doing? And where are you falling behind? And we really do a very boring, very technical deep dive and audit of their entire kind of footprint online. And we look for gaps. And once we've identified those gaps, then we can start saying, like, okay, you need to do more of this, 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 this. The problems that we see most often is that legacy owners have never taken their web presence seriously. They've always kind of said, like, well, we get all our business through referrals. Everybody knows our name. We're the number one in XYZ industry. Like, everybody in town knows who we are. Why do we need to kind of almost lower ourselves to working on our website? So they had a website that was thrown together, 6-7 years ago by some kid in college, and they never touched it. They don't understand how it affects their marketing or their brand. So a lot of the times it's just kind of like, take a look at your website, make sure it's firing properly, make sure it's modern, make sure it works on a cell phone. You'd be surprised at how many companies we come across and like we show them on our cell phone, like, this is not workable. So basic stuff like that, clean that up, make sure that you're well listed, well found. A lot of the stuff is really boring. We have a lot of kind of just instruction manuals for like how to do it yourself and checklists of all the different platforms that you should be listed on that are free. Make sure your Google is set up properly, your Facebook is set up properly, your Instagram. It's super boring stuff, but it's the stuff that makes the difference. And then once they have that foundation, if they're still not getting traction, that's when the paid ads come in. That's when you really have to add some fuel to the flames. And that's where we kind of specialize in, like, okay, if you're going to start spending money, you want to make sure you're not just handing over a pile of money to Meta and Google and setting it on fire. And that's what we come in to help protect our clients.
Thanks for sharing that. That makes a lot of sense. So would love to hear, when it comes to somebody who's a successful business owner like yourself, who's an individual that's made an impact on you along the way? Somebody that's been a leader or somebody else who's been an example to you.
So that's a good question, actually. I would say, so my background is a little bit weird. Before I got into running my own business, so my actual background was computer science, but I graduated during the .com bubble, so I couldn't find a job. So I ended up through a series of accidents working in education for a number of years. I ended up teaching high school for about 13 years. I would say that during that time working in education, that's, I think, the most formative for my leadership style. When you're working at a high school, like in the classroom, every single one of your peers is a leader. Every single one of your peers is responsible for those 32 kids in the room at any given time. These are some of the most underpaid, passionate people in the world. And the lessons that I learned in the classroom and the lessons I learned working alongside them, that's how I learned leadership. And that's how I structured my company. I often tell people that my mandate when I started the company was I wanted to create the business that I would want to work in, and that's very proudly, I think that's what I've done, and that's the feedback that I get from my team and my staff. And when we're hiring, we always tell our new hires that one of the criteria for being part of our team is that everybody learns, but everybody also teaches. And when you open up our Slack, everybody's constantly sending information back and forth, and we're always learning, we're always evolving. And my friends like to joke that, like, you could have built anything, and at the end of the day, you built yourself a school.
Very cool.
So my leadership style, that's basically it. The passionate people that I saw working in education, that's where I learned how to lead.
Very cool. What's one thing you've changed your mind on over the span of your life or career?
That's really broad.
It could be anything.
It could be anything. That doesn't help. That makes it more broad.
Yeah.
That I've changed my mind on. Honestly, I don't know. I think I like, I'm pretty guilty like everybody else. I think I've been pretty consistent. I think if I think back to my younger days, right? Like, I think when I started computer science and when I started the company, I think a little bit, my main goal was just to kind of like, make money and do anything I can just to push myself at that. And I think that the thing that's changed the most is that I think instead of focusing on the outcome, on the goal, I think as I've aged and as I've done this for so long, it's been more about the journey. and enjoying the day to day, like, you know, enjoying going into the office and working with my team and learning stuff. And over time, I think the focus has become less on like, okay, how much money are we making? What's the end goal? And more on like, am I enjoying what I'm doing day to day? And I think that's probably the thing that's been the biggest shift, since the early days of when I started. I focus on the end goal a lot less, and I focus on the journey a lot more.
Nice. What have we missed that we should have talked about, Sheldon? Anything else you would like to talk about? Yeah.
Well, I've been listening to your podcast, and I was disappointed because you ask everybody what their superpower is, and that's the question I was expecting.
Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah. So okay. So when you say superpower, right? Like instantly, my mind goes to comic books because I'm a huge comic book nerd. So,
yeah.
I usually think that my biggest superpower is I can look at a complex system and understand how to leverage it. So when I think about that, I'm kind of like, well, the comic book character that does that is probably Doctor Doom, which is not great because he's a supervillain.
Yeah.
But he's probably the one that kind of like does the same thing. So like in the Emperor Doom story, I told you I was going to nerd out. In the Emperor Doom storyline, he basically figures out that if he takes over this character called Purple Man, he can amplify his power to take over the entire planet. And that's an example where like when I look at systems with my team, we're all a bunch of hackers at the end of the day, right? So when we look at a lot of these AI systems, like being mentioned on how when we were talking before about how do you get mentioned on like these large language models, we look at this complex system and we'd like to reverse engineer it and start playing with it and start trying out different technologies and seeing how we can seed our clients' names and kind of hack the system a little bit. And I think that's kind of like the superpower that we have, is that we're looking at these, what most other people see as black boxes, like digital marketing, like AI, like these complex data-driven algorithms, and we're able to reverse engineer and get clarity and see how the inner workings work and slowly figure out what the cogs are and how we can manipulate those systems.
Nice. Before we wrap up, what do you want those you have worked with to say about your impact on them?
I hope, and this is something that we very actively focus on in the company, even with our interns, even when we do our exit interviews, is like we hope that they leave the company better and more kind of confident and having learned something than when they started with us. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of our staff has stuck with us. We're in an industry that's very famous for very high churn. Most of our staff have been with us forever. And I think a part of that is that like we really do encourage that kind of growth and that kind of camaraderie and that kind of like again, fun journey that we're all kind of on. So I hope that when they talk about their experience with Drive Marketing, that they look back on it in a very positive way, and that it had some positive impact on the way in which they learn their craft and how they go forward in their career.
Nice. How can listeners best find you or follow you in your mission?
So easiest way to find me is generally just if you look me up on LinkedIn, Sheldon Poon. I don't think there's another. I think there might be one other Sheldon Poon, but I think I'm the only one in Canada and Montreal. So that's usually the easiest way. And if you message me on LinkedIn, I do check it pretty regularly, and I'll actually like legit get back to people.
Nice. Thank you. All right. Sheldon Poon, Drive Marketing. Thank you for being on Flywheel Leadership. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, man. It was great.
Good stuff.